Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education meeting. It's the open agenda meeting for April 19th, 2018. The board just met in executive session and discussed personnel, an LAT that was referred to executive session, and the personnel agenda. That's it. I said that.
Okay, got it.
I said that. So Mrs. Saradaki, if you would please call the roll.
Mrs. Boroff? Present. Mrs. Brody?
Here.
Dr. Clancy?
Here.
Ms. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Winkler?
Here.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Here.
Ms. Bauer?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Please join us in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Notice of this meeting was given to the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and also to the Times. And we have had a number of budget presentations and in various settings, including at school board meetings. And now we need to have a motion to adopt the budget.
No, that'll be next week.
Oh, we're doing it next week, that's right. Okay, and that brings us to the instructional update.
We'll need to,
We need the screen, right?
I do believe Dr. Heisey's using a PowerPoint, right? Dr.
You
Heisey?
need the screen?
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Okay.
Going to connect to Apple TV, is that okay?
Yes.
Sure.
Try that.
Okay, I got it. Oh, but does that have to be turned on? Oh, yes, I'll go get the button. Excited.
What's that?
Advance notice. I think it's right here.
What's that?
The button to turn on.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't mind, I don't care.
There you go.
If you think she just had that remote to get my projector.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Dave Heisey, high school principal, and I am here to provide you with our proposal for the new mascot for the Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools. So before I get started, I would like to recognize some of the members of the mascot committee. Not every member of the committee was able to make it this evening, but I do have some representatives. So I'll just ask them to raise their hand or stand, and they're willing, and they can jump in at any time as well if they so choose, because this was a well, I'll kind of get into the process. Let me start with, so I'm going to start with Sophia Iacona. She was a student at Scotch Plains Fanwood and attended our meetings, which we had quite a few. Matthew Tibbles is the president of our Athletic Booster Association, was a member of the committee. Ryan Miller, our assistant principal for athletics. Joan Kaiser, who was a parent representative. Joan. Debbie Saradaki, who was a business administrator, sat on the committee, as did Tanya Williams, thank you, sat on the committee. And then Christopher Bagnonis was a member of the committee, kind of Van Scotian representative. And I want to make sure that I that I got everyone that's here tonight. So there were quite a few other members, students and staff members that were on the committee, but these are the folks that were able to make it here tonight. So I thank you, because we had quite a few meetings. On the next slide I have after several meetings, and we started this process really in terms of looking at and changing the mascot. We've been considering this and kind of exploring it for the last 2 years. This committee that I just mentioned was formed this fall. So I believe our first meeting was in November, if I'm not mistaken, and we met on a regular basis and had some very, rich discussions about where to go. So this new mascot that we're going to unveil, a great deal of time and effort was put into it, and not to mention a great deal of thought. All right, let me get rid of that before we move on. Okay. So what we did was we not only arrived at a mascot, and we did so through input from the student body and staff members as well. We also came up with a recommended logo, if you will, an SPF logo, not to mention the fact that we came up with the name Raiders. So ideally, and I'll kind of give you examples of this as we move through the presentation, any team that is going to display SPF. Some teams may choose to, display Raiders on their uniform. It could be a hat, could be a shirt, a jersey, a jacket, whatever the case may be. If they use Raiders, then it will be uniform. It will be the same. Likewise, if they choose to use SPF, for example, baseball, softball, other teams may have a cap. They may display an SPF on their cap. It will be the same SPF. It will look the same. It will be uniform. And obviously our mascot will represent the school district, in particular the high school athletic teams as well. So, quick history of our high school mascot. Back when we were Scotch Plains High School, and when the high school was first originated, we were a frontiersman, a mountain man, if you will. I kind of compare it to if you ever seen the West Virginia Mountaineer, that's kind of what the mascot looked like. I've not seen pictures of it, but I've seen drawings of it in the Fanscotian, in older Fanscotians. We were the plainsmen. The second logo was a plane, a bomber. And we had that for a few years, commemorating the Doolittle raids over Tokyo at the start of World War II. And then in the 1960s, so we became the Raiders at that point. They used the word Raider, but the Raider was depicted with a plane. And then sometime in the 1960s, the Raider became a Native American. And we used that logo for quite a few years. We used that logo up until 2004. So in 2004, high schools throughout the country were urged, in some cases required, depending upon the state, any high school using a Native American logo in a negative fashion was asked to change it. In the case of New Jersey, we received a memo from the commissioner at the time, William LeBert, that highly recommending that any high school using a Native American logo should change it. At the same time, the NCAA, with the exception of just few exceptions, the NCAA required colleges and universities to move away from a Native American logo. NCAA didn't give schools a choice. A handful of schools made agreements with various groups, Florida Seminoles being one, but vast majority changed their logo away from a Native American logo. So the current Raider, I'm not displaying it because we're obviously moving away from it. The current Raider that we have until tonight was adopted in 2004. It was the result of a contest. It was actually designed by a student. But for whatever reason, not sure why, there's various there's various opinions as to why, but it didn't necessarily win the hearts and minds of the school community. And the Native American logo continued to be used. So, one lesson we can learn is that this new mascot, this new logo that we are unveiling tonight, I think we need to roll it out in a proper fashion and ensure that it does become our official logo and is utilized and used at various contests, moving forward. In so doing, winning the hearts and minds of the school community. Working with student groups and outside groups as well is going to be important. So when we met, going back to this fall, we had 3 options. And we spent a whole meeting just discussing these 3 options. This was our first meeting. I wasn't expecting it to take this long, but we got into school colors, and so the option 1 was to keep the current logo and do nothing. So we don't have to do anything. We're here to look at our school mascot, and if you think we should just keep what we have, that's what we'll do. Option 2 was keep the Raider name, but adopt a new logo. And option 3 was change both the name and the logo. And finally, at the conclusion of that meeting, we agreed that option 2 was our best bet. Keep the Raider name, but adopt a new logo. And that's exactly what we decided to do as a group. So the mascot committee selected several finalists, which were included in a survey to students and staff. So we did open up, we opened up the, a design contest, if you will. So students could submit ideas for our school mascot, which they did. We also drew from existing logos that are out there, some of which are used by other schools and so on. And we had a pretty large number of possibilities that we considered as the committee. And so, as the mascot committee met several times, we narrowed down the submissions, and we put it out to students and staff. We had used a Google survey, and we had various examples, various logos to choose from. And the mascot that we're unveiling tonight represents the consensus of not only the mascot committee, but also of the survey that we conducted. So, when we counted up, and, we weren't necessarily, the voting was important to us, but, we as the committee ultimately would make the final decision, and the high school principal, essentially, it falls on my shoulders, if you will, but it did turn out that the mascot committee and the votes, we were in line, and that is the mascot that we chose. So this is the new mascot for the Scotch Plains Fanwood School District. It could include the Raider name and the name of the high school or not. We have both. I mean, this is the one that I just chose to depict this evening. The one we looked at as a committee just had the armor, the armor, not the Raider name or the name of the high school. So it could be, again, a team could put that suit of armor, if you will, on a uniform. We could actually have a mascot, a live mascot, which we talked about as a committee, at contests, dressed up, if you will, in a suit of armor of some sort. We're already going through catalogs. Mr. Miller is exploring that for next year. So when we have tryouts for cheerleaders, we're also going to have a tryout for the mascot, and so that will be depicted as a live mascot. So our new logo. I also had mentioned at the start of the at the start of the presentation that we decided upon the SPF. So the SPF on the right, the one that has shadows, if you will, that was the consensus of the committee, that was the most appealing. Not to say that we can't or should not use the SPF on the left. They're similar. In some cases, the SPF on the left may look better on a shirt, on a hat, you know, on a jacket, but essentially, anytime we're going to use the SPF, anytime a team is going to depict it, it should have that overlap. It should look exactly like that. We want to create that uniformity. That's one thing the committee felt was important. There should not be ambiguity, and I think that was an issue with our previous mascot. We wanted to make it clear that this is our logo. If we're going to depict the SPF, this is what it should be. And likewise, if we're going to use the Raiders, if a team is going to depict Raiders on their uniform, then it should look as, in the lettering should be as it is on the screen as you're viewing right now. Again, it could have the name of the high school on the bottom or not. It doesn't have to. That would be up to the members of the team. So going back, this is our new mascot, and I'm going to open it up to any members of the committee if they want to jump in. I don't want to put them on the spot. I didn't ask anyone to speak tonight. I kind of took that, figured that was my responsibility. But if there's anyone that wishes to jump in, I know the one thing the committee to talk about as we went through this process, we said once we do adopt the logo, our mascot committee will reconvene, and we will be finished with in terms of selecting the logo, and our next task will be, okay, how can we roll it out to make sure that, and to ensure that it does win the hearts and minds of our school community? How can we make it more visible? How can we work with our various student groups, as well as our, athletic boosters and other groups that are out there? Because, we have not only the athletic boosters, but we have many of the sports that the pay-to-play, if you will. They have their own fundraising, but this is our logo for all of our athletic teams, whether they are fully funded or, on that continuum, if you will, that we have via the board policy for sports that have been recently adopted. That's where we're at. So any members of the committee, as I said, I appreciate their input. I mean, we could not have done this without them, and like I said, a great deal of time and effort went into this. Mr. Miller.
Hello, everyone. In 2006, I became the athletic director at Parsippany High School. 2 years after they went from being the Red Hawk, they were the Redskins for about 50 years, and then they became the Red Hawks. And I was really overjoyed to get the job at Scotch Plains Fanwood High School a few years later to find out that we're in the same exact situation. One of the things we did at Parsippany High School, because we had a community that for over 50 years was used to being a Redskin with the same exact logo and the same exact concept, with the same exact fight from the community of this is what I grew up with and this is what I want. And one of the things that we took on was the uniformity side of things. The word Parsippany High School was written the same, the P was the same, the Red Hawk was the same. So I've been kind of hammering away at the committee that we need that uniformity in order to start the process moving forward. I'm very excited that I know fully with every single athletic uniform that we have, every combination of that can get put on the uniform. It can get put on in embroidery, it can get put on in screen printing, it can get put on decals, it can be put on car magnets. There's nothing that we can't do with this logo to put it out there for the community to see. I have a lot of grandiose ideas of what I'd like to do to dress up the campus. I just need about $500,000 to do it. So thanks, Debbie, for taking care of that for me. But in all seriousness, there are some ideas that we have about creating some parking lot flags so that when you come into our high school and through that parking lot, you're seeing this. Rolling it out in all of our uniforms. We're at the beginning stages of the We've already put in our bid process for our athletic gear, but everything's been held as a to be determined. So all of our vendors are awaiting us putting these on the uniforms, so we'll have the opportunity for 2018-19 for any new uniform that we have to depict what we have here. We're in the right time frame for our cheering program, who's doing tryouts in the beginning of June, to roll out someone who can be our mascot. So we are in a very perfect time to roll this out so that our school community can embrace this as they move forward. This was a wonderful process, and one of the things I also wanted in this mascot was that we could have it in multiple colors or single colors. And why that might be important is when a group is trying to do a fundraising t-shirt, it's cheaper to use a single color font than a multicolor font. So we needed something that could be interchangeable between the multiple colors or shaded in one color. This hits all of those marks, and I think the more that we put it out there and the more that we embrace it, wear it, and put it everywhere, the more that our community will get behind it. That's what worked in Parsippany. And, you know, we don't want to repeat mistakes from the past, but we sure want to look at what was successful and how can we emulate that. And I think if we emulate that same process of an unwavering support behind this, this is our logo, we'll move forward. There's going to be some backlash from individuals who've lived in this community for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, who grew up with the same logo for 44 years, that this was what they grew up with. So as we go through this change, being respectful of the old while welcoming the new, I think is very, very important, and I think we can accomplish that with this logo. So thank you.
And I want to once again thank the members of the community, the members of the mascot committee, especially the students, because their opinion was very important. And I can remember at one of our meetings, I had the portable board, and I had all the submissions taped up on the portable board. I kind of looked at it, and I was overwhelmed, and I was thinking to myself, okay, this is never going to work. There's too many, but we got to it. I mean, we did a great job, and their opinions were. I know one time we got into a discussion on our school colors, and you know, changing our school colors because everyone's blue and white. And I said, oh no, we're going to keep it blue and white. Then I went to a cross country meet, and Joan Kaiser was there, and Joan said, look, everyone's blue and white, and she was kind of right. I mean, Westfield, Union Catholic, there were a few other blue and white schools, but we're still blue and white. We're still the Raiders, but we do have a new logo, and I'm pleased to unveil it tonight. I don't know if you. Pardon?
One of our coaches designed it.
Oh yes, yeah. Actually, Brock Hoare, who's a volleyball coach, both men and women's, was the graphic designer for this particular mascot. Yes.
It's original. That's all.
Yeah, it's original. Yeah. Do you have any questions for any of the members of the committee?
Let's go back then.
I'm sorry?
We'll go back up and then we'll see if there are questions.
Okay, let's do that. Okay. And I can shut this down then, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just hit it again, Dave.
Hit it again?
Just hit the on-off.
That's the one.
You aim it.
Got it.
I know what it is.
If there are questions, I'm going to let some members of the committee answer. Since,
Let's get in here. Single it out. I said,
Okay.
abstain on it.
Any comments or questions from members of the board?
If not,
I would just like to thank the committee. It'll be nice that all the sports teams will be having similar items when they sell them in their sales and all that, so thank you. This was I understand, I now get how hard it was. I wasn't imagining it, but thank you very much for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to ask one question, and I know, I think maybe it was Ryan who mentioned, or you, pay to play. Is there a phase-in for for this, like a timeline, especially if it doesn't have the mascot itself, but it just has, I know the branding's very important in terms of consistency, so I think that was a good decision, but I'm just wondering about phase-in for those who have just SPF or Raiders, and maybe they just bought new stuff.
So every,
You have to do the mic.
oh, I'm sorry. I was really happy right back there. Every year, we have a cycle for purchasing uniforms. So every year from now going forward, it'll take about 3 years to get all of our sports teams into this exact logo. But over the next 3 years, every time we purchase a new uniform, it's gonna have either that SPF or that head of the night. So I think 3, maximum 4 years, we'll cycle those through. And the pay-to-participate sports are on relatively the same cycle. So I foresee this. Ironically, the lacrosse teams right now have pretty close to that same Raiders because it's very similar to it's called the Cougar font. I know way too much about fonts in the Nike world, but the font that's on the uniform is actually very close to the font that we've picked. We'll just call that being happy and lucky.
Okay, thank you. I wondered what the rollout was.
And the rollout for teams, and there's also a rollout just for fans, and that starts, immediately, and I know Matt Tibbles was anxious to he was anxious to get this logo approved, because now he can get the production going on shirts and jerseys and so on, and then we need to work closely with the students, Raider Nation, if you will, so that, when we are at a contest, they are depicting the proper logo, our logo for Scotts Plains Fanwood High School. So, the rollout for teams will be incremental. The rollout for fans can be not necessarily immediate, but you're going to see our logo, this fall. I mean, our spring sports are in gear right now, so we're already in competition the last season of sports. So this fall is where we'll see more fans, and we're bouncing some ideas off in terms of communicating this to the students and hopefully giving students something before the end of the school year that they can walk home with that has this new Raider logo on it.
Okay.
Matt Tibbles, Scotts Plains resident, president of the high school booster club. As we talk about, mass producing this logo and putting it on everything from hats to shorts to whatever, I just want to throw out there that right now, currently, every sport does their own apparel sale. They sell different items, they sell different branding, they're all different logos. I would like to suggest, and just bring it up, that we roll that under one, we can have separate accounts where the money from those sports would go back to those sports if that's appropriate, or any form of that together. But we could, by having all the sports under one umbrella, we could actually put a store online you could order any time of the year. Like right now, we open a store for 5 weeks, you wait 5 weeks to get it back. If we have enough involvement and enough sports, we could just have an online store that's just run all year round. So people, if they need a t-shirt, could just go online and buy a t-shirt. But it's hard to do that when we're just doing one group at a time, because there's a setup charge every time you want to print that t-shirt. But if we have enough volume and enough, groups involved, we can eliminate some of those extra costs, make a little bit more money, make it cheaper for everybody else as well. So just want to throw that out there and let you know.
I want to say that I agree that that's a very good idea, and maybe if Mr. Miller could coordinate a meeting for us, we could set that
That'd
up.
be great.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you for that
Thank you very much.
suggestion. I want to echo Dr. Clancy for the entire board. We really appreciate everyone's investment of time in the process, because process is important. So thank you very much for that.
And thank you for your support. Thank you.
Okay, in accordance with the Scotch Plains Fanwood Policy 0164 and 0165, we have an opportunity for anyone who, from the public, who would like to come to the microphone and speak to the board. You need to give us your name, the town in which you reside, and you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Matt Tibbles, Scotch Plains, 2396 Channing Avenue. A few months ago, I came by, we talked about lights, just wanted to see if there's an update. I know that it was mentioned in the budget meeting the other day, just wanted to try to get a sense of where we're at. I know it's a big ticket item, and just wonder if there's been any further discussion.
Yeah, I've talked to our architect. He has given us an estimated price. I also talked to Musco Lighting, and they said that they, when we want a firm estimate, they can come by and work with us on that.
Great. Would it be appropriate to begin some fundraising activities around that?
The price is probably cost prohibitive for the local fundraising because
No,
we're
but
talking...
we've got some big pockets out there that happen to be very interested in this. So
I think that we should connect
meet
you
that.
to facilities,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Hello. I can't reach this.
Well, just pull it down, pull it down.
Hello, my name is Cindy Roman. I'm a resident of Scotch Plains, mother of two, an 8-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. I'm here just to bring up a concern. I'm not really sure what the protocol is. First time I'm here for a bus aid for elementary kids. My daughter's 8. She's a 2nd grader at Brunner School. She was belonging to bus route 2, number 627. The last month we haven't had a consistent bus, but from just the beginning of the school year, we've had a couple of incidents with first-timers on the bus. A kindergartner, she fell asleep on the bus, and it was like the 3rd day of school. The mom was really frantic. Daughter didn't come off the bus until they did the sweep. She was sleeping on the bus. There was another time that there was a student that he wasn't supposed to come home on a Monday, and he came home. Luckily, I've gotten to know a lot of the mothers in my community, and the children know me, so he came to me, and he couldn't find his mom. She wasn't home. She was working. So I called her, and, she had to come home from work. Another incident was with my daughter. There was an altercation on the bus, and she ended up getting pushed to the point where her head hit the window and ended up with a welt on her head. And then just the normal chaos of kids taking off their seatbelt, intimidating 4th graders to kindergarteners, and just normal stuff. Whereas when you say to your child, well, what did you do? She's like, well, I can't tell the bus driver because he's driving and I have to be with my seatbelt. So I feel like just having an assistance of a bus aid would be helpful for just a safer ride for first-timers, and also for more disciplinary for the older kids. And that's pretty much my concern, and I'm not really sure what the protocol is, so I came for support to know how to do it.
Well, it's always good to seek help, and we appreciate and want to know about anything that's helping. And certainly, you can speak to the superintendent or the business administrator, and I'm sure they probably want to speak to you further anyway to follow up.
Yeah, so I'm also standing here representing myself and 16 other parents that I was able to start just a small petition to just know that I have support also from the parents, and I'm not just here kind of. My second concern was just kind of vague. My daughter is tiny like me, and she dealt with some bullying since kindergarten at Brunner. I'm sorry. And so I didn't know how to go about it. So I went to the principal and asked if maybe there was a counselor that she can go and speak to instead of coming home and crying all the time. And I was told there's no counselors in elementary schools. He was the counselor. And so he said it's kind of a conflict because he's a disciplinary, but he's also the counselor. So I kind of got confused as to who does a child talk to when he has a concern in school? Because I'm mom, and I say, it doesn't matter what size you are, anything, but when it's in school, she has to feel some kind of support. So nothing kind of happened, and it kind of got a little worse in 1st grade, and again, I just went and kind of took it upon myself. I put her into sports and just kind of tried to build confidence, just her knowing that she has support. And she's a very confident girl, but for some reason, when she gets to school, she kind of gets like lost. So this year, we did put her into counseling ourselves, just separate, but I just don't know is it standard to not have a counselor, or how does that work?
Okay, so there are some school districts that have found a path to have counselors in elementary schools, but obviously, you have to have the wherewithal within a budget to do that. And I know principals have talked to me about the value of that, and I have been an elementary principal myself in other districts, and I have been a principal in schools with counselors and in schools where we didn't have counselors. Through our board strategic planning, this was something that was brought up, so we're really aware of how helpful that could be. But we also know that we're operating under a 2% cap in our budget, and our state aid is still not at the same level as it was back in 2007. So what we have done in this year's budget, balancing the concerns that have come up this spring about school security and school safety, we have moved forward to create additional security support in our schools out of the budget that will come out for the next school year. But I've also asked the board, and the board has been very cooperative, to help us hire an additional social worker. So we already have one social worker who does do work with social skills with kids in elementary school. So it's not really true to say we don't have anybody for the school. It's true that we don't have one assigned to every elementary school, but principals, as needed, when they find that there's, for example, a nucleus of children who would benefit from having some social skills support, we do provide that. And what we're hoping to do, now that we'll have another social worker, separate from the child study teams, who can be devoted to these things, between those two social workers, we will be able to help address some of those concerns. And then, as the budgets go forward, depending upon where our state aid comes in and where our resources are, counseling is certainly one of the things that is, a growing priority. So we've heard what parents are saying, and it's not that we're opposed to it, but as a superintendent, one of the things that I've always promised my board is that I won't put a program in place unless we can see at least 3 years of support for it, because it would be very unfair to start the program one year and then the next year have a right. When we went to full-day kindergarten, it was a similar process. We waited many years to get to that goal.
It was right after my daughter.
Sorry. But we've been successful, and the program is thriving. So trust us, we know, and we're moving, but we have to be conscious of how to make it work so that it's there to stay.
I mean, one of my suggestions that I felt was maybe even just involving the children in it, as of course having a social worker, but maybe for me growing up, there was always a patrol, It gives a responsibility to a kid, and it also,
Yes.
It just shows other children that it's okay to be responsible and okay to stand up for someone else.
Right.
So just small programs that even if high school students came in to volunteer, to also kind of buddy up with kids, or having kids, at lunch that are alone, or walking around in the park, things like that it just builds, it builds a rapport for that person, and it also just gives them a nice, root of who they're going to be. Because as critical as, it is to have a counselor or in high school, I feel like, these are kids, they're so young, and it's like, this is the most important time to teach them how to be a friend, and it's like, they did the program of the lunch bunch, and so it came up because I ended up emailing the bullying counselor from middle school, and so they, the principal told me, well, your daughter doesn't really fall into the category. She doesn't seem to have a problem. And I said, who doesn't need to learn how to make friends at 7? You know what I mean? And it's like, you never know what best friend you might find. The one that's super quiet and the one that's making 1,000 friends, they might actually have more in common if you kind of just mix them up a little and show them they're not different. So to have the lunch bunch and then only categorize children that you think have social issues kind of tells that kid, you have a problem, instead of mixing, you know what I mean? I almost feel like they can build off each other, and it's so critical at such a young age, and to show them. So by the time they're in high school, they're gonna be more of a role model, you know, and have that strong root on them.
So 2 other things I'll share with you tonight, just to show you that we're on the same page.
Good, I'm so glad.
We have, as part of our strategic plan, and Mrs. Rabimbus is spearheading this, we have a committee that's working on health and wellness in our schools. They're analyzing the programs that we're currently doing, which ones we should continue, which ones perhaps we should weed out, and then which ones there may be new things we should add. And then in concert with the mayor of Scotch Plains, actually, I give him credit for this, we're moving forward in the fall with using the Sandy Hook Promise program, Say Hello. And it has very similar themes. It's a series of classroom lessons. We have to decide what grade levels it would be best situated with. We have not yet fully fleshed that out, because you don't want to have the kids go through the same thing every year,
Right.
because then they'll say, been there, done that. But we're looking forward to rolling that out, and it accomplishes many of the same goals that you're talking about.
Right, so my daughter, they do Celebrity of the Week, and she couldn't wait to do Celebrity of the Week.
Right.
And so they get one day that they get to teach the class something, and I said, okay, Lily, I said, what do you want to teach them? She said, I want to teach them kindness.
That's great.
And I said, that's beautiful. And it made me so proud. So we ended up doing the kindness buckets.
Good.
So it's just plastic cups with just, you know, the pipe cleaners, some Post-its, and she taught them what kindness is. And you know, and her teacher was shocked how confident she felt speaking in front of 18 kids, and how engaged she had them, that she said she never seemed like that confident. That she couldn't wait, and she went a cappella. She just went, freestyled it, and those buckets stayed on their desk, and they're still there, you know. And I told her that's what it is to make a difference. I said, God made us small because we're giants in the inside.
Thank you.
So I'm going to speak to who, or how am I going to contact?
You can contact me, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to come to the microphone?
Good evening. I don't know if this is the right form, but I just got a text, my daughter's stuck at dance school, and my wife, we're pretty far away, so I don't know if I could sneak in right now real quick. My name's Scott Phillips. I think I spoke to you yesterday.
Yes.
I sent everyone 2 letters about an issue I've been having. And I want to come introduce myself face-to-face to all the emails. And I just want to say, for the life of me, I cannot understand why no one will help me or my daughter in this situation. She's been wronged by an employee of the Scotch Plains Fanwood Board of Education.
I just want to stop you here, because we have replied to you and let you know that while she's an employee with us, your concern has to do with something that is unrelated to school.
And I respectfully, completely disagree with you.
I
She is a
understand you disagree
representative
with
of your-
us.
She's representative of your school.
No, PALS is completely separate. So,
I sent, in my second email, I sent you a copy of what the coach wrote, that once you make the team, that you represent our town, the PAL, and our schools.
I'm sorry, but
CC.
PALS is separate
It was CC'd.
from Scotch Plains.
That's fine. If it's separate, it's separate. It's still the actions of your coach has hurt a child. I don't care if it's off duty or on duty. She done something wrong, and she should correct it. And you people are not taking any stance to help my daughter. She's 14 years old. You're more interested in protecting this woman.
We're not, it's not about protecting anybody, but your concerns need to be addressed to the PAL program.
No, it doesn't. She is a coach.
She was a coach for PAL, and that's your concern. Yes.
As the board attorney, I've reviewed your situation, and the bottom line is that the action that you speak of, she was not acting as an employee of our district at that time. This was a action that was related to PAL, not the district. So this district has no jurisdiction or
disagree
no
with you.
ability.
I was a
You
police
certainly have
officer.
the right to
I was a police
disagree,
officer 34
but you're not going to get any other answer.
I was a police officer 34 years.
And I was a municipal court judge.
Congratulations.
So I know, and congratulations to you. But the
Congratulations.
bottom line is, you're not going to get a different answer no matter how many times you rephrase it, bring it up. The answer is, we have no jurisdiction over it.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wants to come to
Okay,
the
and
microphone?
again, I would like to know a way of making a formal complaint. Is there a form to fill out?
You write a letter, which you have done.
There's no forms to fill out?
No.
Nothing to go to the state?
No.
I suggest you get an attorney.
I don't want to
Get some legal
Why do I have
advice.
to get an attorney? I don't understand.
Well,
A
because
girl
maybe
has been
you'll
wrong.
get explained what the law is.
I don't feel that attorney's necessary.
Okay, fine.
A girl has been harmed by one of your coaches.
We're gonna,
She's
we're
actually been bullied
moving,
by
we're
one of-
moving on.
We'll go the bullying route if you want to do that.
I think there's some other people who would like a turn at the microphone, so.
I'm sure there is.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Is there
I can't do
anyone
anything for
else?
you.
No, you can do something. She is a representative of your school. There's got to be a code of ethics that even if she's off duty, quote unquote, she's still responsible for her actions.
Did anyone else?
Is there a code? You need the attorney. Is there a code of conduct?
Not that covers what you're indicating.
Is there a code of conduct for off duty when teachers are not working?
There's, teachers, all employees have a code, in essence, not a written code, but a code of conduct
There's
that
not a
they have to
written
follow.
code?
No, not that I'm aware of. But, I mean, there's an expected
Wait a minute.
stance.
You're not
of
aware of
behavior.
one, or there is one?
I'm not aware of any.
But there could be one.
No, I don't think so.
Do they sign any paper that they're going to have good judgment when they're off duty?
No, not really. If they don't exercise judgment that runs afoul of the law, the criminal laws, there are sanctions that can be imposed. But
How
not,
about non-criminal?
no.
Are you going to tell me a teacher off duty can do non-criminal activity and not be held?
I'm not going to give you any more legal advice. I
don't want legal
suggest you
advice, I
get an
want an
attorney.
answer.
No.
Excuse me, but you've had your 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And now I think there were other people who wanted to come to the microphone.
And
Thank
again,
you.
I will take this further, because I cannot believe there is not a complaint form. Is there an investigation being done?
I believe that you have written to a number of people, and you keep trying to get an
I'm asking a
answer
specific
that
question.
no one is going to give
I'm asking
you.
a specific question. Is there an investigation going to be done of what happened?
Based upon the correspondence that you have submitted, there's no basis to conduct an investigation.
What's the harm in doing an investigation and then having that as your final answer?
Sir, we have responded to you. You have the advice of our attorney. If you want to go further, you need to get an attorney. Now, I want to turn the microphone over.
I don't know why you're...
I want to turn the microphone over to the next member of the public, please.
I'm still not satisfied. I'm not
Well, I
satisfied
can't
at
help
all.
that.
Yes, you can.
No.
Yes, you can. You could smirk all you want, Mr. Attorney. I don't think it's funny. My 14-year-old girl has been harmed. And if you think it's smirking at me or laughing, it's not funny. So I'll point my finger right at you. I think that's disgraceful what you just did. So keep your little smirks to yourself. You're disgraceful for smirking. The 14-year-old has been harmed by one of your employees, and none of you should do nothing to help her. And you're all disgraceful. You're just passing the buck.
Is there anyone else who would like to come to the microphone?
Good evening, everybody. Donna Sokoa from Scotch Plains. I have some general comments mixed with some questions that actually might follow up with what Cindy had to say. It may help her, and ultimately, I'm hoping some suggestions that may help the district and some other children and parents in the district, and following up with what I've observed at meetings and been reading. With a budget of $104 million for the township, I know the high school and the middle schools have guidance counselors because as the children get older, they clearly need some guidance and some help. But as Cindy's noticed, and I have noticed there are no guidance counselors in the elementary schools. I know the budget has now provided for another social worker. I was wondering if the board would consider utilizing that social worker in conjunction with the school psychologist to perhaps rotate them among the 5 elementary schools, perhaps twice per week, and notify the parents of the students at each of the schools to utilize these 2 individuals and give the students at the schools the benefit of, in essence, having a guidance counselor part-time available at the schools, and let the parents know when the social worker and the psychologist will be there, so that if they want access, they can call and make an appointment, or at least the children will know if they have a problem, that they can go and speak to the counselors at that time.
We can certainly look into that.
I thought that might be a practical way, utilizing who we have now and given the extra addition that would benefit the students at the kindergarten levels.
We
We
certainly-
appreciate all suggestions.
That's right.
And as Dr. Hayes said, over multiple evenings, many, I don't want to say hundreds, but a lot of people turned out for our community discussions for the strategic plan and health and wellness, both from the community, the staff, the board, everyone. That is one of the areas of focus that we chose, and both evaluating current programs that we have and looking to see what areas of improvement we need to move forward with during the next 3 years.
Well, I figured work with what you
So-
have, and that's what we have, so maybe that would be a way to work it.
Thank you.
Next, with regard to the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and getting the word out there, it's come to my attention that a lot of parents don't know a lot about the statute, whereas in other districts, it's clearly posted on their websites about the statute, resources, the actual HIB forms are actually posted, the New Jersey tort claims notices are posted, and actually, according to the New Jersey Administrative Code, the district has a procedure for reporting verbally and in writing an act of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and there's a requirement that a link be posted regarding harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and it be prominent on each school's website and on the district website.
We'll follow up. I do believe that we have things posted, but if Dr. Mast works with our website, and as does actually Ms. Treglia, who's here tonight. So we will double check, and if we have to make it more prominent, we certainly can.
Okay,
It's not a problem.
I can let you know, the only thing that's prominent on each school's website is that Scotch Plains Fanwood scored high in the fight against bullying, when in fact we know that their scores are self-assessed.
Well-
And to find anything about harassment, intimidation, and bullying, you have to click on the Board of Ed link, and then you have to go down to school board policies, which is 159 pages. You have to go down to section 5,000 under pupils, which is 5512, and then go down
Right.
and read from there.
Because that's the link to the policy, but this is not the first time you've asked about the self-assessment. The self-assessment for HIB is a process that was created by the state. We have to follow the state's process.
No, I understand that, but
Okay.
my concern here is to facilitate the public's knowledge of it.
Well-
And if they can see what, in terms of other websites, they see this is what remedial consequences would be, this is what consequences would be, this is what discipline would be, I'm saying that might also help
Sure.
students and deter them if they could see this. And also, it would show that the parents can also file their own HIB and not have to rely on a staff member, a principal, a teacher to do that. And it might also encourage more people to come forward, given that in the code of conduct for the students, if they see something, they're also supposed to report it, am I right?
We don't have any problem with students reporting.
Okay, but they have to report it, and if it's online...
students do.
They can download it.
Right, but students do report.
But I'm saying in other school districts, I've seen it actually...
Well, we can look at how other districts are doing it, and our website is something that we always find ways to improve.
And that might take some of the pressure and paperwork off of the principal and the administrators, too, if parents and students knew that they can download it and file it that way.
Perhaps.
And that was just a suggestion. And...
She spent 6 minutes.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, lastly, I just wanted to know what is parental recourse or the next step if, after a HIB report is filed and remedial measures or consequences are in place if they're not being complied with and the victim is still being victimized. What is the next step?
The parent should report that immediately to the principal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come to the microphone?
Scott Stryker from Scotch Plains. Perfect example of what Donna Scola just spoke about. When Cindy came up and spoke to you and said that her daughter was being bullied, why didn't you explain to her that she could fill out a HIB report?
Mr. Stryker,
We really would like to talk to her individually and not...
The problem is the parents don't know that you can file a HIB report on your own. And she said that the principal blew this off.
Mr. Stryker...
No, she didn't
She
say...
should be instructed on how to fill out a HIB report.
Mr. Stryker...
Instead of it being swept under the carpet like all your other complaints.
No, we have a number of parents who submit HIB reports, and we've had a number of
That
programs.
they have to jump through hoops to find out how to do it.
No.
It's not prominently displayed on your website as required by the state.
Mr. Stryker, we report at every board meeting on HIB investigations. Every board meeting. Every board meeting, I report to the board on HIB
Did
investigations.
you explain to her that she could file a HIB report and how to go about it?
What I explained to her was that if she had any concerns, she should reach out to me, and I'm open to having a very open conversation with her. I invited her to contact me.
Wouldn't it be easier to just tell her she could fill out a HIB report?
I don't know what her specific concern is tonight.
She said her daughter was bullied and the principal blew it off. Is that too hard to figure out?
She didn't say, per se, the principal blew it off, but when she talks to Dr. Hayes, one of the things she would do is explain the process.
You know what? We've been down this road, and the process wasn't explained to us, so I have no trust in that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come to the microphone?
You can hear what she said.
Is there anyone else who would like to come to the microphone? Seeing no one, we're going to move on to committee reports. Who would like to go first?
I have curriculum.
Okay.
Okay,
Dr. Kulikowski.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. The Curriculum Committee met on April 9th, and we discussed the following topics. We had the results of the comparative study and the impact on arts and writing by Alexandra Hanner, Arts and Writing Integration. The district has been supporting the work to integrate arts and writing. A concentration of this work has occurred in the middle school level with the writing workshop teachers. Professional development has been included with a student-teacher lab where teachers firsthand can receive feedback from the students on the impact of this type of learning. The workshops have consistently received positive reviews, mostly in an anecdotal nature. Dr. Hayes challenged the work by asking the teachers to conduct a study and to show evidence of the quantitatively shows that the arts have a powerful impact on student learning. Alex Hanner took Dr. Hayes' challenge and conducted action research with a number of her classes. Alex shared the success at our meeting of her action research where the students' writing showed marked improvement by the growth demonstrated on a rubric. Alex then showed the curriculum committee a presentation of the rubric results, as well as a sample of the music played. Alex provided sample of the students' writing and artworks from the workshops. Next, we talked about the World Language Digital Lab update with Lisa Howard. Updates on participation in the Seal of Biliteracy for the 17-18 school year. There will be students that will be awarded the Seal of Biliteracy this year, and we will be implementing a digital language lab for the high school. There was feedback from teachers about the lab trial and an impact of the digital lab can have on our high school world language programs. Next, Lisa Howard talked about Title III update. She had updates on increasing the ESL needs throughout the district. Funding is going to be used to provide training for the classroom teachers working with the ELLS and the community adult ESL classes starting in the fall of 2018, and that's with the Title III immigrant funds. Last on our agenda that day, the Equal Opportunity Schools proposed partnership was presented by Dr. Hayes, and we are exploring to increase student participation in higher level courses. We're going to be sending out an application to see if we're chosen, and then we will have some professional development to engage the staff on this topic. And that's it. That concludes my report.
All right, I know everyone received this. Are there any questions? I know a number of you were on the committee, so you heard this firsthand.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kulikowski. I think we also have...
Facilities,
Facilities, okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Williams.
So the Facilities Committee met on April 9th. There were a few agenda items that we addressed. The first one was visitor management system. There are 3 options that we discussed, having a lobby guard, TPAS K-12, which provides technologies for a visitor management system, InfoCorp, which verifies identity and will search for any active warrants against local databases. The second agenda item was we talked about sidewalk work for our Evergreen School, the high school, and Park Middle School, which will be an approximate cost of $147,700, and that will be coming from our current year's budget. And also Cole School, there'll be a sidewalk next to the existing on Aberdeen to create a better drop-off area. And School 1 will be, hard to read on your phone, sorry.
I know, I'm doing this.
On my computer, I didn't have my plug. We also talked about paving work planned to be done once the bid process is complete at the high school and at Evergreen School. And we also talked about, discussed revised proposals for the Terrell and Park Auditorium. Oh, thank you, Karen. Number 3. Oh wait, I think I lost it. Okay. Right there. Thank you. So we talked about paving work, planning to be done once the bid process is complete. Current quotes are through Ed Data at an approximate cost of $147,700. The work is going to be done at the high school, milling and paving the parking lot, Evergreen School also. We also discussed proposals for Terrell and Park Auditorium. The work has been received from Rapid Energy Solutions Company. The total for this project will be $514,240, and part of that will come from excess from a 2016-2017 excess extraordinary aid. Park stained glass skylight work. We received several quotes last year of approximately $150,000 to repair and clean the lights, but we were able to find a significantly lower price. And after checking references, the feedback is that the work is outstanding from J.R. Lamb Studios Incorporated. There's no recommended actions for us at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I think we have a finance report as well.
Thank you.
Yes, several of those items were covered already, but our committee met with Mark Vidovich of Pomponian Foods He wanted to talk with us about the possibility of leaving the federal lunch program due to the numbers of our free and reduced students and recent changes by the state, which greatly reduce our flexibility to provide a high-quality meal. We had a long conversation about, well, basically fruits and vegetables and other things that we want to keep having, that it's going to get more difficult. So we did talk about the pros and cons of leaving the federal lunch program, and we're going to continue that conversation at our next meeting. So I'll have an update more about what the numbers would mean. And we had asked Mrs. Saradaki to give us an update on the status of our bonds. And our current bonds, which I believe were made in the early 2000s, that was when the board went out for bonds, will be paid off in July 2022. And I had sent out to everyone how much it is each year. It's one for 2019-20, it's $1,352,250. 2020-2021 is $1,294,500. 2021-22 is $1,231,125. And finally, 222 to 223, 758. 500. And I do have to say, over the years, as an audience member, and now I know that that both Mrs. Saradaki and her predecessor have worked to get to continually get our interest down on those, so that we could pay the least amount that we could and pay them off in a timely fashion. So the committee was happy for the work that Mr. Del Sordi had done and Mrs. Saradaki. As Dr. Kulikowski mentioned, Dr. Hayes also proposed to us that our district apply to participate in the Equal Opportunity Schools program. This program works with selected high schools throughout the country to increase participation and success in AP classes. The goals for our district would be building on our best academic programs, working with the EOS to implement the highest impact strategies, and closing the achievement gap for low-income students and students of color. And at this point, we supported Dr. Hayes submitting a preliminary application, and if we are asked to go forward, she'll come back to the board and talk more about it. And as Mrs. Williams said, we talked about the various types of visitor management systems to address our ongoing security needs, and it is being proposed that we contract with the GTBM Inc., the InfoCorp folks, and as Mrs. Williams said, this system would mean that a visitor would need to swipe her or his license and then wait for a green light. A red light would indicate that a visitor is not allowed to enter the building, and the local police would be notified. As part of this setup, we would enter into an MOU with our police departments about what would constitute a red hit, and we supported this recommendation. And as Mrs. Williams already said, we're going ahead with the very necessary sidewalk projects. The desperately needed updates at Terrell and Park auditoriums, and the fixing of the skylight. And again, in those last two items, Terrell and Park auditorium and the skylight, we really thank Mrs. Saradaki for her work at really working hard to find us manageable options so we could get these things done in a way that we could afford. So thank you very much. And our next meeting is Monday, May 7th.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Clancy. I don't believe we have any policies tonight, and shared services you reported on at the last meeting, right? Letters to the board. One LET was receipt of an email dated April 6, 2018 from Donna Sicola, which was referred to executive session. 2 LET receipt of an email dated April 10th, 2018 from Lucy Burse regarding school security. 3 LET receipt of an email dated April 11th, 2018 from Mr. Phillips, which was referred to executive session, and 4 LET receipt of an email dated April 11th, 2018 from Scott Berlinski regarding the hiring process. And that brings us to the superintendent's report, Dr. Hayes.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Tonight, I would ask that the board approve the out-of-district placement that is listed on the agenda.
So moved.
Can one be a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. Tonight, I would like the board to affirm the superintendent's decisions in the 10 March harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases that were reported in executive session on March 19th and March 29th. It's not asterisked, but I would like your approval this evening.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Yes.
Need to abstain from the March 19th date, so I wasn't there that evening.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay.
Okay, and then 3S, tonight I would ask that the board approve the following field trips. Terrell Middle School students in the 7th grade self-contained class would like to visit the Scotch Plains Miniature Golf on May 30th. They are going to be involved, obviously, in an outdoor activity. They're working on motor skills. And then the Terrell Middle School jazz students in 7th and 8th grade would like to travel to Elefante Music in New Providence. They're going to be performing in 3 genres of jazz music, and they will receive scores in adjudication and feedback, and this will support their continuing growth of their musical skills.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And on the personnel agenda, I would ask that the board approve the personnel agenda as reviewed in exec this evening.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Mrs. Saradaki, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Dr. Kulkowski? Yes. Mrs. Winkler? Yes. Mrs. Boroff?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody? Yes. Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Saradaki, you want to go ahead with the business functions?
First, I'll ask for the board's approval of the staff training on the superintendent's recommendations on the report dated April 19th, 2018. So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
2 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of the disbursement listings. 3 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of the district school security and fire drill reports for March. 4 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve continuation of the existing subscription bus program with no change in the rate of $625 for the 2018-19 school year. 5 BUS, I'll be asking for the board, after the budget is approved, to approve the monthly tax payments by municipality for 2018-19. 6 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve the curb and sidewalk repairs at Coles, Evergreen, High School, Park, and School 1. 7 BUS, I'll be asking for the approval to dispose of a piano, which is in poor, unplayable condition. The cost of having someone pick this piano up and take it away is more than the value of the piano. So I don't have the information in front of me, but it will be on next week's agenda. I believe the purchase date was 1984, and it's been in a room where the students continually abuse the piano. It has served well for the district, but it's the piano most in need of replacing, and we received a wonderful donated piano to replace it, so. 8 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve a claim inventory for re-tagging of all our relevant assets and tagging all the new assets purchased during the 2017-18 school year. 9 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve the annual athletic bid through Ed Data. 10 BUS, I'd like the board to vote on this evening, if there's any questions. This is the roofing replacements at the various schools. It's Park Middle School, Terrell Middle School, McGinn, and Coles. And we anticipated approximately $2.5 million. The bids came in at, the low bid was $2,242,000. We did receive 8 bids. And I'd like the board, if they could, vote on that.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Comments or questions?
I have a question. When you get these contractors, do you have any, like, references with them?
I was gonna ask the same question.
Or within the Ed bid system, are they automatically, like, you know, to make sure, you don't get a bad vendor that's the lowest price?
We do contact the references they provide, and our architect does reach out to whoever he knows that may have also dealt with them. He does recommend this company. I think the letter went out to you that he'd given his approval of this company. Unfortunately, with the low bid process, that does not mean they're an outstanding contractor. You have to have some serious problems to reject the low bid. But he has checked this company out to verify that their work is satisfactory.
We haven't used them before. We haven't used them before.
No, unfortunately, we've had a couple of very good roofing companies, but we've never been able to get the same company twice.
As a bid spec, usually it's in there that they have to provide a certain amount of municipal or school references. So that's in there.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
11 BUS, I'll be asking, that should be done tonight. I'm sorry that wasn't marked. I'll be asking for the board to approve submission of the 2018-19 Ellie Grant application for preschool and acceptance of the funding in the amount of $49,500.
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
12 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of the board secretary's reports, treasurer of school fund reports, and budget adjustments. And 13 BUS, I'll be asking for the board's approval of the bill list.
Okay. Comments or questions about any of the items that we're voting on next week that people have? Okay, if something comes up between now and then, reach out to Mrs. Saradaki. That brings us to new board business. Other board business. Request to attend workshops. Do we need to request if there's no payment?
No.
Okay. Workshop reports? Okay, so next time we have two resolutions, important ones, Staff Appreciation Week and retiree resolutions. So folks can think about who wants to read those. We'll be approving the minutes, and we have an opportunity for the public if anyone would like to come to the microphone. Seeing no one, is there anything for the good of the order?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
This Saturday is the spring fling for the athletic boosters. And it is going to be at the Scotch Hills Country Club from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock. It's $50 per person, but it's a wonderful fundraiser, and it's a tricky tray. So unfortunately, I'm out of town, but I have attended in the past. It's been a great affair. Again, it's at the Scotch Hills Country Club this Saturday from 6 to 11.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
We have new artwork?
I just want to say the artwork and the poems that are on, they're phenomenal on these artworks. And then the names that they put up here on these neon drawings are really wonderful, and we have stained glass, so.
I was in here early when the sun was out, and it really shone through. It was beautiful.
Yes. So anybody in this room, take advantage of our students and their talent. Okay, we need to, can I have a motion to go back into executive session? We won't be acting on anything.
We have to say what we're going in for then.
And we will be doing, discussing suspension and detention, legal issues, and HIP. Was there a motion?
Yes.
And a second?
Yes.
All those in,
Who seconded?
did you get it?
I got Karen as the first.
I second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cindy.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.